Is called to order. Will commissioners, staff, and guests please rise for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today. We thank you for the freedom that we have to make decisions for our constituents. Please be with the elected officials that serve across our land and help them to make great decisions today. We thank you for bringing our missing member home safely, and we ask that you keep your hand on our commissioner that's still traveling. Please be with the men and women who work in harm's way to afford us our freedoms, and thanks for the sunshine. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, thank you. For the purposes of attendance, the clerk will call the roll.
Connor?
Here.
Geiger? Here. Gibson?
Here.
Jackson absent. Parker?
Here.
Smelker?
Here.
Wayne?
Here. At this time, any commissioner or member of the public may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration.
Madam Chair, I would like to add under items for consideration, adoption of Resolution 1919, a resolution to honor Nashville Police Chief Chris Koster.
They need support. Support. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing no other changes and without objection, do we need to vote on that?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved as amended. Reports from state and county officers. Does any state or county officer or their representative have a report to share with the board?
Let Julie Callan go first.
Good morning.
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 Does this work? Aha, there we go. Well, I would like to stand before you and tell you all the wonderful things we did for counties in the budget. But we have some additional news coming out of Lansing that is noteworthy. So let's start with what a typical budget cycle looks like. The executive always proposes their budget, and then the House and the Senate create their versions as well. Those three parties will then meet over the items of disagreement and usually come to some sort of compromise. Compromise was hard to find this summer while the budget played out. And finally, in September, as we were coming down to the wire, the governor agreed to set aside road funding as a separate issue and talk only about the budget, which is typically how we do things. If you're looking at a big legislative initiative, that's not usually combined with budget talks. So we thought we were making some progress. Again, when we came to roads in the budget, we reached an impasse. The governor feels very strongly that she does not want to see one-time funding in the road budget, and people like me feel the exact opposite. So we need to do everything we can to make roads a priority, and we do that by allocating what general fund money we have to public health and safety, and then saying, okay, what can we give to roads this year? Now, keep in mind, we have 16 budgets. The Department of Transportation is just one of those. And yet, over frustrations with this particular budget, our executive decided to walk away from the table altogether. So the legislature put the rest of the budget together on their own. We worked with our colleagues across the aisle on many of the budgets. Over half of them came out with strong bipartisan support, and we sent them to the governor, knowing full well we would see some veto action. We always do. That is the ability of a governor. They cannot add a line item, but they can veto anything they want. And boy, did she. We've now set a new record in Lansing, 147 new vetoes, some of which, oddly enough, were actually in her proposed budget that she gave to us back in March. The governor has said she realizes a number of these programs have value, and she did this to get us, quote, back to the table, unquote. Two things there. First, we never left. Second, the budget is done. You know how the budget process works. You do your own. You do not pass a budget and then immediately start talking about how you're going to amend it. You have to be focused on policy at some point. So that is what we anticipated to be doing right now, focusing on policy, moving ahead on some initiatives that we really think are important for Michigan. So, what got vetoed? You've received my email already, but I'll touch on just a few. Secondary road patrol, payments in lieu of taxes. That is if a jurisdiction has estate land in their area and they cannot collect property tax, usually they get payment in lieu of taxes. You'll feel a reduction in the child care fund reimbursement, reduction in reimbursement for appointed guardians through the court system. Rural health care got cut, charter school funding. Pure Michigan, some people love it, some people hate it. It's gone either way. Scholarships to students who are already in college. That one's particularly unfortunate. Funding for veterans, those with disabilities, homeless, refugees, seniors, tethers for parolees, and much, much more. Immediately upon issuing the vetoes, the governor requested that we start working on a supplemental budget. That's our version of an amendment. As you and I have already talked about, that's pretty extraordinary and unusual. If that's where the story stopped, we might be in discussions already. But the story doesn't end there. There exists at the state level something called the State Administrative Board, and it is a group of individuals who usually approve very large contracts for the state. Representatives, typically, of a few state departments, as well as our elected officials, sit around this table. On the 1st of October, our governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and the directors of education, transportation, and treasury all sat around the table, and in a most unusual move, used their ability to move line items around within budgets. So this is akin to you completing your budget and then having some of your county electeds and appointeds get together and rework the money within their department budgets to their delight. This happened to the tune of 13 out of 16 budgets. The last time this took place was during the Engler years. He did it to one budget. I was not there, but I'm told the room was full of dissenters and fury. It actually resulted in a lawsuit. They called it an absolute imbalance of power. Now, why it wasn't addressed in statute at that point, I can't tell you, but here we are today. It is within their capability, but it has certainly caused problems. Because how can I go ahead and negotiate another budget amendment and have any confidence that the line items that I support will actually stay there? Because this board has the ability to move that around again once approved. The Attorney General sat at the table and moved around money within her own budget. She had a vote on that, as did the Director of Transportation, who is not an elected official and should have no powers of appropriation whatsoever. Over $600 million was moved around. That's over $500 million that the legislature did not support. So that's where the breakdown currently is. And I understand that these cuts and these vetoes impact you directly and the people we serve. But I would encourage you to voice your frustration directly with the governor's office, because if we don't help her understand that this particular angle of negotiation is not fruitful, you will see it again next year. And the message has to be delivered that we can work together in a different way. This is not the way. I do also want to mention that within the vetoes that the governor issued, she struck the whistleblower language. That's something that has been in boilerplate. That's our budget language for a number of years. I can find it back to 2003. And that essentially says that any state employee who wants to talk to their representative or their senator will not get in trouble for doing so. They have freedom of expression, and they have a right to representation. But the whistleblower language was indeed vetoed in this last budget, and that is troubling as well. So I know I'm a ray of sunshine, but I wanted to come to you with reality and help you understand what we're facing in Lansing. And Madam Chair, it's up to you whether or not I entertain questions or simply provide the update.
You're here. If anyone has questions, please. Commissioners, do you have questions for the state rep?
Is there discussion about a supplemental, putting the money back that she vetoed?
So our legislative leadership has told the governor's office that if she has veto remorse and would like to issue a supplemental only based on things that she struck, we would be happy to entertain that. But to look at new give and takes and horse trading, this is not the time for that.
Any other questions for Representative Calley? Thank you, ma'am.
Pleasure to see you all.
Come on up, Kyle, if you'd like. As many of you know, we had a loss in our county. The Nashville Police Chief, Chris Koster, was tragically killed recently, and it really is a huge loss for the Nashville community, for Barry County, and the more I reflect on it, a loss for me personally too. He was a good friend and a mentor to all. I have a resolution prepared, but I have a couple individuals behind me that knew Chris better than I did, and I'd like to invite Julie to share a few words on why Chris Koster really made an impact.
Thank you. For those of you who might not know me, I'm Julie Nakpor-Pratt, prosecuting attorney for Barry County, and I've actually known Chris Koster, or knew him, since about 1993 when I began as a prosecutor, a young prosecutor back in Allegan County. And of course, behind me is Kyle, and I didn't know if Ben, I'm sure Ben's going to introduce him, but Kyle is Chris's oldest son. And then he has his beautiful and wonderful wife, Michelle, and a son, Hunter, and then Kyle's wife, Stephanie. So I just wanted to say a few words because I cannot describe the tremendous loss. For anybody that knew Chris Koster, Chief Koster, he was a spark. He described himself as a bull in a china shop, but a more fierce advocate for elderly, vulnerable, and children you have never met. One that is that profoundly of an advocate. When I met him, he was a detective in Allegan County, and we worked a lot of sexual assault cases, mostly child sexual assault cases. And in addition to that, he worked a lot of homicides. If my memory serves me, he was kind of like he was the guy that photographed a lot. He had a keen understanding of evidence. He was articulate. He was very, very hardworking. And when him and I posted on my Facebook that him and I went at it a few times over a few cases, but that was the best part about him. And I tell law enforcement that all the time. If you have something to say and you have your own opinion about a case, please tell me. It's okay. It's a good thing for us. And Chris and I worked well together. Then he became the chief in Nashville, and I have to, even in this setting, I have to say, it's one of my most proud moments of Chris was when he busted the biggest child pornography case I've ever seen. It was one guy who had been doing it for over 50 years, and there was a young girl, and I can talk about this here because it went to court. There was a young girl who had Down syndrome, and she was nonverbal, and she had been sexually assaulted by this same exact guy, and she couldn't say anything about it. So for 25 years, it remained a cold case. They couldn't solve it. Because, and unfortunately, her dad came under scrutiny because he was the only male with her in the home, if I remember right. Maybe she might have had a sibling that was very young at the time. She was 8. Koster would not give up. He absolutely wouldn't give up. And when we found out, when the guy had said that he did it, you can't just get his confession in. You have to have evidence to back it up. So Chris just wouldn't give up searching and just trying to find the needle in a haystack. He finally found it. It was photographs that he had to take, if I remember right, Homeland Security or somewhere like that in Chicago or somewhere to get them developed because they were old photos of this girl. And sure enough, we had what we needed in those photos because the girl couldn't describe it to bust him, and then was able to get his statement in. So he's off to prison now, hopefully for the rest of his days. But the parents of this girl, even though they had since split up, were forever grateful to Chris Koster because it was him that actually brought to close a mystery that nearly ruined their family. and I'm sure upset the community of Nashville. So for that, I will always commend Chris. But what I really commend him on, and his wife Michelle and I had a wonderful discussion at his wake, or the luncheon following his funeral. He was just he had a deep, deep heart and dedication for what he did. And he was going to advocate hard for something if he thought it was what it was. And I will give him a lot of credit for that. And we will miss him. He was always a good friend. I could talk to him about just about anything. And one of the things I want to highlight, I've never seen anyone talk so highly of his wife all the time. He never said bad things about his wife. He never criticized her. He always talked about the fun things they did. He was really proud of how long they'd been together. He was so proud of his sons. Kyle being a probation officer across the street and Hunter being a deputy now in Allegan County. He was my friend. He was my friend and my colleague, and he will be missed. So I'm really appreciative that you guys are paying this tribute. It's well deserved.
Kyle, why don't you come up here? We don't do these very often, but your father had a special place in the heart of this community. I had spent some time with him at the sesquicentennial, and I saw him interacting with some kids that had been walking around our neighborhood at night, possibly getting into trouble, and to see how he mentored those kids and just the genuine care, not coming at them as a cop, but as a friend. It touched my heart. And last night I heard those kids walking around the neighborhood again, and I thought, who's going to be their role model now? So your dad left a legacy that we all need to live up to. So whereas, this is the resolution, whereas Chris Koster spent the past 32 years on duty for the people of West Michigan, serving the Otsego Police Department, the Allegan County Sheriff's Department, and the Nashville Police Department. And whereas Chief Koster was committed to the safety and well-being of our children and served as a detective tasked with bringing child predators to justice. And whereas Chief Koster's final chapter of his career was in Barry County as Nashville Police Chief, where he made a permanent positive impression in the lives of young people and on the streets of our village. And now therefore be it resolved that the Barry County Board of Commissioners offers its deepest condolences to Chief Koster's family and its sincerest gratitude for his service to our communities and our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to say something.
It's probably better if I don't.
Okay.
I guess the only thing I would like to add is that my dad enjoyed every bit of his career because of the passion that he developed from his father. So we're grateful to have found our niche in the community, and we'll continue to fulfill his legacy and provide the protection that our community needs. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other state or county officers that have a report? Hearing none. Limited public comment at this time. Members of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Erin Moore, I'm the District Director for Michigan State University Extension. I just wanted to take a quick minute to introduce a new staff member that we have, so I'm going to let her step up and introduce herself.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sydney Miller. I'm originally from Charlotte, Eaton County, just next door. I grew up in 4-H and got really involved with Extension in that aspect, but I now have the opportunity to focus on health and nutrition throughout Barry County via programs. And my goal is really to range from youth to adults to senior citizens and just everyone in the community, trying to make positive changes in the areas of health and nutrition.
And lastly, I just wanted to mention that we have a new Facebook page. It's really the best way to follow what events are happening in your community locally. And so I'm going to leave a couple flyers here on the table. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Any other limited public comment this morning?
Good morning. My name is Mark Doster, Prairieville Township. Some of you may know I live on the corner of Doster Road and 3 Mile Road. I don't know if any of you have actually been down 3 Mile Road this summer. Have any of you been down 3 Mile Road this summer? There is a causeway that goes through Star Lake. My great-grandfather actually built that causeway about 1900 by cutting full-grown trees out of a field and pulling them out on the ice with horses, and then every year that would drop into the lake, and he built a straight road through this lake, so that because there used to be a road that went all the way around it. Well, that thing has been covered with water pretty deep all year since early spring. The road technically has been closed, but nobody pays attention to the signs. They go around it and it's been going through it. Their trucks are beating that road to hell. No one seems to be very interested in doing anything about it. I've made comments to the township. I talked to the road commission yesterday. It was pretty clear that they hadn't given it much thought. I had attempted to go to road commission regular board meetings. Their last 2 meetings were canceled because they didn't have anything to talk about. That road, 3 Mile Road, is the main paved road that goes east and west through Prairieville Township, the center of the township. It's the main road that connects M43 to 131 in Plainwell. It gets a significant amount of traffic. There is going to need to be a costly fix to that. The causeway is in 2 sections. One section also had the same problem about 35 years ago and was built up and has maintained that, and so that section is good. This section needs to be built up. This is not an issue, I'll repeat, is not an issue, I believe, for the Drain Commission. This is not an issue of the water being too high, it's an issue of the road being too low. There's not a drain involved, it's a bowl that is filled up. The thing about public projects, having done a number of public projects, is you want to be cautious that a public project doesn't turn into some sort of a scam-ish proposition to make a lot of contractors, a lot of engineers, and a lot of attorneys money that does very little good. And that might be the case if that were to happen in this. This has been a very dangerous situation all summer. My driveway is right beyond the road closed sign. People spin around that. They pull into my driveway, back out just as another car comes around the road closed sign. Every day there is fur flying and gnashing of teeth there because of near fatal accidents. My mailbox has been backed over 3 times this year. This is a very serious situation. It's one of these cold mornings, it's going to freeze solid. There's water on both sides of the road. Someone is going to end up in the drink there. There's going to be a death. There's going to be lots of hand-wringing and questions, did I do that? Not to mention that the response times for ambulance, fire protection is significantly longer. In order to go around on a paved road there, you have to go almost 3 miles in one direction and 3 miles back. I mean, there is not a reasonable alternative. So hopefully some pressure can be done, some sort of allocation, something can be done here so that this doesn't create a huge problem for this winter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
I'm going to do a postscript, if I may. Julie Callie. I've been dealing with two things and I only talked about one, so my life has been taken up with vetoes and mosquitoes.
You got to give her credit for that.
It's sad but true.
That one.
DHHS decided that citizens could not take care of themselves and big government needed to stay in and start doing aerial spraying. A portion of Berry County was impacted. It was almost impossible, even for my office, to get information from them. And I only came up here to sing the praises of your local health department because they were the ones who were able to feed my office information that we could in turn give the citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have any correspondence to share with the board? Hearing none. Consent items.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I would move for the approval of the September 24th, 2019 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes. Approval of October 1st, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Approval of grant number EMC-2019-EP-00004, State of Michigan Fiscal Year 2019 Emergency Management Performance Grant, grant agreement, and authorize the chairperson and administrator to sign both copies of the grant agreement. Approval of contract with MDOT to leave improvement the connector to the Paul Henry Thornapple Trail in place in return for county maintenance agreement. Approval to reappoint Robert Price to the Board of Canvassers representing the Republican Party for a term that starts November 1st, 2019 and ends October 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Connor, supported by Parker, to approve the items listed under the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed and a roll call vote is required. The clerk will call the roll.
Connor,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Jackson absent, Parker,
Yes.
Smoker,
Yes.
Wayne.
Yes. The consent agenda is approved. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is. Thanks. Presentations. Is Eric here from Carl Pinkster?
Yep.
There he
Just
is.
stepped up. I'll be doing a little work.
Do you need time to prepare, or are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All righty.
Did you just walk off the street, like,
Yes.
right in the door? And
I was sitting outside listening.
All right.
Thank you.
Sir? Can I have another one, Eric? Thank you, ma'am. Sir. Yeah, leave me one.
So this morning is basically an update on where we are and looking forward and planning for a community forum process. And so what I wanted to do is share with you a draft of the way a community forum might look. And then also take some time to maybe set up some individual meetings with each of you to find out what you would like to get out of the community forum. So the process between today and the community forum would be first to look at this draft agenda and kind of get a little bit of feedback from you on the agenda of the way that forum might be set up. I will provide then a draft of the presentation of the agenda, or a draft of the presentation to you on the 16th so that you could review it and provide me feedback at your board meeting on the 22nd. I would then be able to make some updates and get it pulled together for a community forum date. And reviewing with Michael, it seems like the best date might be the 4th or the 6th of November. And maybe the 4th might be a better date so that we could then talk about it at your board meeting on the 5th, but we can play through how that might work. The purpose of the community forum is, as we talked about in the work plan, the first community forum is to first deliver information of the condition of the two facilities, and then listen listen to what the community has to say based on the information that they were presented, allow them an opportunity to ask questions, basically say, Tower Pinkster, here's your homework, go find out. And then a second community forum, which would be after the first of the year, would be a presentation of some options. And we would want to then get feedback on those different options, go back and refine that option to be the one that we believe has the most community support. And then finally, before the deadline to put something on a ballot, we would then go out and present our final option and our solution to the community and ask for feedback and gauge that feedback so that you could then make a decision whether or not you want to move forward with putting something on the ballot. Does that make sense? Okay. So the document in front of you has an outline. The first part would be basically an introduction, a welcoming. Let the public understand why they were here. And we would want to get that probably out ahead of that a little bit and get information out to the public of what we're getting, why we are meeting, and the information that we're trying to get from them. We would then present a small history of the work that Berry County has done to date, going back before the work that Tower Pinkster did originally with the master plan, the facility master plan, and then basically give a facility report both on the Commission on Aging and then on the jail and sheriff's office. It'd be a two-part presentation. One would be just to enlighten the community on what the building purpose is and the services that those two facilities are providing and how they fit into your community, and then give an update on the status of each of those facilities. Then we would have the community break into small groups, and we would basically try and get them to answer some questions. There's a couple of questions that I've got there, and that would be the part of sitting down with each of you between now and the 16th is to find out, are there other questions that you would like me to facilitate getting answers from the community for you? And that would be about a 15-minute period, and then a report out period where we would hear the top, the most pressing questions or needs that came from each of those groups. We'd assimilate all that into a single report and then provide that back to you. What we find works really well is to hand each group a set of Post-it notes, and then they're writing their questions and their comments and their concerns and everything that they would do, they're writing on these Post-it notes. We would then get them posted to a poster board for each group, and then our office would then take all the information and assimilate it into a single report for you. What we find is that by breaking into small groups, we don't get the large group being dominated by one loud vocal person. If we can get it to groups of 6 to 10, that usually works pretty well to get a good consensus feedback from the community. Then we would basically wrap up, letting them know what our next steps are, which we already kind of have the game plan out, but that would get information out to the community what we'll do next. One of the things I think would be important to understand from you as a group, would you be interested in doing a community survey? That's something that we can help you procure from different survey groups, and that allows you to get some feedback, maybe from somebody that wasn't at the community forum.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Connor.
I'm going to ask Ben this question because did you put a community service on for Toast, a community survey on our website for Toast? And how, if you did, how was that utilized?
We had about 1,400 responses to our Toast survey, but we invited people to participate. So I think what Eric is talking about is more of a poll of the community where we go out and ask. Okay. So the Toast survey probably was completed by more passionate or informed people, where Eric is and Tower Pinkster probably going to do a broad cross section. I'm very supportive of the idea of doing a survey. We hear from a lot of people, and a lot of them are here today, No offense to you guys who regularly come to our meetings, but you guys are very weird in that you're very hyper-informed about county government. So there are a lot of people that don't come to these meetings that we need to get a sense from.
I just wondered if
Dan?
that would be possible.
Yeah, are you talking, when you talk a survey, are you talking about phone?
Phone call polling.
That's what I thought, okay.
And you think you'll get a better result from a phone call?
We tend to get a different cross-section of the community. None of them are perfect. If you do the online thing, you're going to get people that want to go look for it. With the people that you call, it's usually the people that answer their phone.
That still have a phone at home?
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I actually answered the phone at home. So it's a dicey way of trying to get polling information, but it does create another data point for us.
Any other questions for?
How would you go about advertising the forum to get a broad geographic and?
Well, I think one is through whatever website that we have here, whatever mailing addresses that you have here within the county. We could get it on our website, but it comes through the more that you can reach your constituency to get them there, the better. I think we get it in the newspapers in different ways of that nature. I don't have any prescript ways of doing that.
But would you say a press release, a media advisory inviting people is
Absolutely, yep.
part of this? Okay.
Any other questions for Eric? Thank you, sir.
Well, I guess before I leave, I'd like to try and get some, maybe is it okay that I just reach out to you directly to try and set something up here in the next week to chat with you individually or in pairs about what you would like to see get out of this community forum?
I'm free after today's meeting if you're around.
All right, same thing for me.
Me too.
I'm kind of hit, but I have to get back to work.
Yep, okay.
But if you want to set up an appointment to talk with Eric, just
I'll reach out to you directly.
be here after the meeting.
How much longer is your agenda going to go?
Oh, you can go a little farther if you want. We're looking at the next.
No,
You just want to wait until we schedule the.
We can
the
do it
6th
after
or
the meeting.
4th?
Oh, you want to?
Do you want to talk about?
If you'd like to talk about that, we can.
We need to get it done before deer season starts.
Exactly, because we'll lose a few members. They're close to the 15th. So if we can, I guess, what's your pleasure? Do you want to schedule something for the 4th, the day before our BOC meeting, COW meeting? It's a Monday. The 4th is a Monday.
It's got to be at night.
Or the 6th, and that would be the Wednesday after. I think if we could have the meeting beforehand, we'd have something maybe to discuss at the COW meeting on the 5th.
So, my opinion, I'm just going to jump in here. So the advantage of Monday is it's before your meeting, but I won't have all the reports assimilated before Tuesday morning. The advantage of Wednesday is it's not Monday. Monday follows up after a weekend, and so those are the two things to weigh. As Michael and I were kind of looking at the calendar, so the next time we'd be able to get back together would be 2 weeks after the 5th, which would be the 19th of November, to review the information, which does give us enough time to pull all the information together and get it to you ahead of time.
But your plan is to give us a draft by next week, the 16th?
I'm going to give you a draft of the presentation next week.
Okay.
Then on the 4th or the 6th, we'll get all the information from the community. I'll pull that into a consensus report of what we heard, and then get that back to you for a discussion at a board meeting. So on the 4th, I won't have that ready for you on the 5th, but we could talk about what was talked about on the 4th. On the 6th, when I would come back, I would be able to have you a report pulled together to talk about on the.
So you'd really only need a day and a half to pull that stuff together.
Day and a half.
So if you came on the 6th, you'd have that for the 19th, right?
Correct.
Okay. got my days mixed up for a minute.
So what is our, excuse me.
Go ahead.
So what is our meeting today after this meeting?
I'm going to come to you on the 22nd of October, and I'm going to show, well, I'll have it to you ahead of time so you can look at it. And we'll just talk through what I'm going to present at the community forum. I don't want any of you to be surprised at what's going to be talked about at the
Talking
community.
about today, after this meeting.
Oh, I want to sit down and just have a personal conversation with you about what you'd like to see on the community forum
Okay.
conversation.
All right.
So I want to tailor it to all of you, but also I want to make sure that I'm hearing each of you individually.
Yeah, good idea.
Will the polling information be included in the report you present post-forum?
I would not do a poll until after our community
Oh,
forum.
really?
So I wouldn't do that until probably through December.
Interesting. So you're using the forum to decide what questions
What
to
question
ask?
to ask, exactly. So what did we learn, as you saw on the agenda, one of the things that we ask is, what did you learn today? And what that helps us understand is, what is the new information that the community learned in the community forum? And that then tells us, this is the information we need to get out. And then also, what are the questions you have? We can start to build a survey or a poll from that kind of information.
Madam Chair, don't you think we should set it up on the 6th then? You'll have the information.
Probably a good idea. So it's not Monday. So Wednesday, I know that is, I only have one township meeting that night. I don't have anything else that shows up on the first Wednesday of October.
There's,
Economic Summit.
I just got a note about the Women's Giving Circle meets on November 6th, and I think that is a lot of interested COA supporters go to that. People in general. I also have a township meeting on the 6th, and that is the Castleton Township Board meeting, and the supervisor, Cheryl Hartwell, works down the sheriff's department. And I'd like her to be there to listen too, if possible.
Well, we can't push it too far back.
Is the 4th a better night for the community? I mean, there's
I don't
no
think it
difference
matters that
essentially.
one. You have a township meeting?
I have a Syria Township meeting, but it's the only one that I know of that's on the first Monday.
The 4th is good. I don't have anything on the 4th.
Let's March 4th then.
March
How about
4th.
November
What,
4th?
November 4th?
No, it was,
So in the evening, early evening, late evening, 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Usually is the best time to do it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just quickly, and Eric, okay, there it's moving. This will be, we'll of course advertise this as a public input session. We'll also, our intent would be to notice that the Board of Commissioners, if you may, a quorum of the board may be there, although it's not intended to be either a board meeting or for the county commissioners to do anything other than listen, correct?
Correct. I urge you emphatically to sit on your hands and listen and not engage in the conversation. Allow me to help facilitate it, and we'll go from there. So the key is for you to get community input as unfettered as possible.
What's the location of that meeting?
We didn't set it yet, so we'll have to find someplace that can accommodate a crowd.
Yeah, we will look for something that accommodates a large audience.
I don't think it
in
should
anticipation.
be at the COA because we need folks to be able to take in the report without investigating it for themselves or I don't know, it seems weird getting a report about the building you're in. It might affect their views.
I don't think it,
Thank you for that input.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't think it matters where we do it. I don't think it'd be bad to have it at the COA from the standpoint of We're just there to, we're not gonna be, see that, you know, leak in the roof or anything like that. We're just gonna be there. I don't think it may be an advantage for people to see that situation too, so. Because then they'll understand a little bit more about what's going on with it, but that's just my opinion, so.
I think given the crowd that we had for the toast meeting, we maybe need to have someplace a little bigger to accommodate the people who are going to be interested. This is going to be a county-wide thing, and I think you have the potential to have a lot of people there. And I don't think that the COA building can handle a standing room only crowd and be able to hear. We need someplace with the audio system that Eric can be heard well over, because remember, we're listening.
Right.
We did have a forum once at Star School.
We did.
Well, the new auditorium.
I think the new auditorium would be a great idea if it's available.
Yeah.
I would advise against an auditorium-type seating arrangement because we don't want it to be Eric delivering information that everybody listens and then sits on their, and just sits back. It's better that if it's a flat floor, that people feel comfortable kind of moving around in the group discussions. If it's an auditorium-type setting, it tends to become electoral versus discussion.
Well, we'll put our thinking caps on and see what we can find.
The city holds elections at the Baptist Church. It has a lot of parking and a pretty good size auditorium or center. The expo center is just,
I don't even know
it's
where the Baptist
too
church
big.
is. Okay. Say, Berry County Christian School has their gymnasium too, and a sound system.
So we'll leave it to you
We'll
and Eric
coordinate
to
something.
Available place.
Yeah.
play central.
Central would be nice.
Anything else for us?
I put the 4th on my calendar.
It's
and,
on mine.
And I'll work with Michael to get a press release out once we get a location picked.
Thank you, sir.
And you're going to be here after
I'll
the
wait.
meeting?
Yep, and we'll get some time set up to meet with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How about we take a break?
Sure.
See you back in 5?